All right, guys, so today we're fixing the Figaro. This is a 1991 Nissan Figaro. If you don't know, pretty neat little car. If you're just watching the videos just now, it's possible. This is getting to be a very sought after car in America. This has been a thing for a long time in Japan, which is the only place you could actually buy it new. There's 9,000 made. There's probably a small amount of those left in the world today. These are also popular in England at the moment. So this car is ticking. I think what I'll do is just reach over here, since she's right-hand drive, and I'll start it up for a second, let you hear it. Knock, knock, knock. Who's coming? Somebody's coming in, boys. She's knocking, but hopefully it's not knocking. Hopefully it's only the lifter setup. Now, this has a weird setup, and we have a whole box of stuff from the Figaro shop over in UK. And hopefully we get to work with them in the very near future. And if you guys need anything, go to thefigaroshop.com. I think it's what it is. Link in the description. And they sent us a bunch of stuff here. So first things first, we have the transmission service kit, which is the filter, which bolts on with the small gasket. And somewhere in this box we have the pan gasket for the transmission, which is right there. The cork gasket. Let's kind of unpack this thing all in one go here. We have a oil filter, I believe this is. Oil filter, there we go. All this stuff is comparably priced to like a Honda Civic, believe it or not. It's not very expensive. Only if you need something crazy like leather seats or convertible top, obviously we're gonna see some money. We have NGK spark plugs. Not iridium or nothing, just regular standard NGK, which is what you need for this particular car. Here we have, this is our rocker kit. So these have an issue, and I'll move this so Philip can get you in here and take a look. So the valve cover is a tiny little valve cover. It has two bolts, two nuts on studs that hold it in, right here and right here. Yes, it is turbo. Calm down. And so we got in this bag to start off with. The bolts that hold the valve cover on, also, or the studs, go through and thread into the cylinder head that replaces these. And what'll happen, they'll actually stretch. So it has these two bolts, then it has two under the valve cover that look like this, and those hold the whole rocker assembly down, along with those two studs, right? And so they'll be tight, but they'll be stretched, so the lifters will clatter no matter what. All right, and then we also have new grommets for the top. It goes under those nuts right there. And then on these little bolts I just showed you, they have a little locking retainer to make sure they never come loose. This engine does not have those. What else we got in this bag? We have the two little half moon seals for the oil pan, because I would like to take the oil pan off, see what's happening there. It is seeping a little bit anyway. I think these are the only pieces for the oil pan gasket as far as I could tell, and the rest is silicone. So hopefully that's the case. We also have a new cam seal. I don't know, I feel like they gave us the wrong one for the bottom. I feel like that's the rear main seal, not the front main seal. What does it say on here? Nothing. These weren't really leaking, but you know, we'll see. But it looks like a rear main seal instead of a front. And then we keep going here in our box of goodies. We have valve cover gasket right here. This is all, a lot of this stuff is Nissan stuff. I don't know. Yeah, Nissan factory gasket. We have in this box a air filter. We didn't even look at this. We just assumed it needed a new one. It's really bad, all right? And these are all blueprint parts. We also have a fuel filter. That little guy. It's like some off a lawnmower. Kind of is a lawnmower. About the same size engine. Then we already opened this up, a Dayco timing belt kit and a idler pulley that goes with that. And we actually have not opened this up, so I can drop it on the floor and break it. There you go, little tensioner pulley. And so the date code on this was 2014. This time belt was replaced. It's so tiny, it's so inexpensive. Like, why even roll the dice with it, right? This is an interference engine. Why even roll the dice? This is such an easy car to work on. It wasn't worth it. All these parts here were about $300 US. Obviously, that was with shipping and everything, so there was $40 shipping. We got all this stuff here in about 6 days from England. So right now is the time to do it. So let's get started on this operation. We're going to start off by taking this hose off and this hose off with a pair of pliers. And we also have a feeler gauge set. I'll grab it for you guys. And we had a problem with this. We had a pretty good feeler gauge set to set these valves with before, but it only went down to 8 and 8/1000ths of an inch. And these have all the way down to, was it 0.16? It goes down to like crazy low, right? 0.12. So 6 is what we're going to need for the intake, and we're going to need 10 for the exhaust valves. And that's just how they want it. Very, very tight tolerance. Let's go ahead and just pull this off real quick. I'll just pull it off both sides. That should work. We'll go and pull this off. One thing I forgot to order, we'll have to place another order coming up. We still need some struts. We still need we need struts, we need spark plug wires. These are spark plug wires off something else. We'll need some other little tidbits for this car. Philip's trying to move the light, but the thing's sliding out of it like always. And then we'll rip this off of there, like so. Now, these are 14 mil here. I need to go to the other side. This little boost tube, yes, that is the boost tube, is very, very tiny. That is a 10 mil. So what I did last time, I undid all 4 of these. We did run the lifters on this, but only had the 8 and no new bolts. So it did help the ticking somewhat, but not all the way. And like I said, hopefully that is the only issue with this, and there's not underlying situation like like rod knock, right? It's a very cheap engine rebuild, very easy to rebuild, but if we need a crankshaft for this engine, that may not be the case. It definitely may not be the case. There's the boost tube, probably the hardest part in the whole car to get off. So at this point, and then we'll come back on the other side. And now this car doesn't really have many other problems at 99,000 miles, as it really shouldn't. And you know, it's kind of refreshing to us after working on the V10 stuff to work on this, because it's super, super easy. All right, so 14 mil. Maybe I said 13 a while ago. Maybe I didn't. And there's 2 10 mils on the back side of that. You see these grommets are just totally deranged. Somebody's put a washer under this one. We'll have to pull the cover off to get them all the way out. 10 mil back on. It's so crazy that all the money we have in lights in this building, it still feels like it's never enough or never the right stuff. Sort of bizarre how that works. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and grab. Let me pull that plug off. That plug, you don't have to take that off, guys, but it does get in the way. You saw what I did. I held my finger over the top of it. So when it fly off there, we're gonna put it back on there. So now whenever you push it back on, it just clicks on it. That's it, you're done. Now, flip that up out of the way. Grab by the oil cap, give her a little wiggle. we're just going to pull it up off of there. Just that easy. And there we are. The gasket stuck to it. We'll fix that right away. And you can see everything down in there. And it is not very complex. We'll say it like that. We'll just go that far with it and say that. You can see we're gonna have to turn. That one sounds pretty loose. We're gonna turn the engine over and we're gonna set them different times. We'll show you how to do that. First things first, what we need to do, we may have to get an actual ratchet to do this. We need a 14 mil back, and let's go ahead and grab a ratchet. We already got an extension. We're gonna break these bolts loose. Wasn't that tight at all. We'll get the torque specs when we're reinstalling these. Next up, let's grab a 13 wrench and see if we could break those loose. Possibly a ratcheting. The ratcheting may not fit in there. All right. We're just going to do one at a time. There's that one. And let's see. My rag. Can you see if they're stretched? They don't look stretched, but who knows, right? Keeping that little washer and everything on there. We're going to start that. We're going to go ahead and zip the other one out. I could not find any torque specs on these anywhere. They are just a tad longer. A very minute amount. And I'm gonna look here. There's no Loctite anywhere on these. And that was another question we had. Do they get Loctited? I extremely doubt that. Especially those middle ones where they're very hard to get out with a wrench. Barely snug. Barely snug. And we're going to come back to that. Let me grab my wrench. We're going to take those studs out. You just really can't tell, to be honest. So many guys on the internet act like this is a major job, and it's like, man, this is nothing. What are you talking about? But I guess for somebody that doesn't do mechanic stuff all the time, it can be intimidating. But this is about as easy as it gets, guys, for one of these cars. That's for sure. I can promise you that. For any car. So these are 14 mil head bolts. So if you do some, is that one not going all the way down? Hold on. Yeah, it is. If we do some basic math, your average 10 mil bolt's about 7 foot-pounds. On everything else, that was a little bit bent. You see that? Every time I turn that. Your basic math, everything points to these should be sitting anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds, foot-pounds. When we broke them loose, like they probably had a little more than that on them. And we can't torque wrench these down because obviously you can't torque wrench something that has, like where you're going to buy a socket that deep, right? Maybe somewhere, but nowhere close to here. All right, let's go and grab a ratchet. All right, and can we even get the ratcheting part of that? Just is not really a thing to use on it. Hurts the elbow a little bit. All right. All right, there's all that. Now we're going to put the lockers on it. Take our old 2 bolts out of here, take all of our stuff away from the paint. And the lockers, this had no lockers on it, so we'll have to try to figure out. That felt good. The lockers gotta go like that. So we need to grab a socket. It's not rocket science in this car. It's like as primitive as it possibly gets. So these little tapered rings. And there it is. I'd say we're probably a little more, probably 25, 30 foot-pounds on these by the old Nathan's arm meter. And we're gonna run it. So now what we gotta do, I get a ratchet for the crankshaft and we turn this thing over. Okay, so we have the exhaust side with descent at 10 thousandths. Intake side set at 6. We're gonna take 11 mil wrench and we have the crank set at top dead center. We're gonna adjust 1, 2, 3, and 6. Then we're gonna turn the crank 180 out, so number 4, so 1 rotation on the crank, so the timing notch is up, and then we'll adjust the other ones. So let's go in here first. If I don't drop something down, then we'll Figaro here. And we're going intake side is 0.006. I'm just gonna back that up just a little bit till we get that in there. This works just snug. We're gonna hold the screwdriver in the same place. We're gonna come back in here and do a little bit of this action. Try not to move the tappet at all. It's a good, really good snug up on it. I'm gonna go back in here. Can we even get that in there? I'm at the weird angle in the back here. Yes, it'll barely go in there and it'll drag a little bit, which is what you want. Now next up, we're gonna set this next one at 10. It's a tricky spot, man. There, I can barely get it in there. So let's go ahead and this one. All right, let's put the number 10 in there. I hate to bend that. A lot of guys will bend them when they're using them on purpose. There it is. A little bit on the tight side, just a hair back. A little bit too tight yet. All right, 1, 2, 3, and 6. So we'll be right back. We'll do the rest of them. Okay, so we just turned the crank 180 out. So when the marks on the little timing guide over here, there's a little notch in the pulley. Obviously, number 1's up. And you know number 1's up because these will be loose. And then we did 1, 2, 3, and well, 1, 2, 3, and 6. Now we just spun the crank 180 out. So we're going to do 4. We're going to do 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? So we just set this. Here's the next thing. I just set that at 10. That's a lot of play, boys. That's what she said. There's a lot of play in there. I don't know. I mean, it all feels about right. And I think what the issue we had by this not setting right the first time is probably 1, the bolts, and 2, by not having the 6,000ths gauge, only the 8. But we just set that one. That is a lot. But it's about consistent with the other one. See? So let's go back and recheck that. I even set a little bit on the tighter side, one would say. I mean, that's where you want it. If you get too tight, you have a problem. Yeah, I don't know. You can tighten these without holding the center, but you just got to look and make sure that doesn't move. See, that's pretty tight. A pretty heavy drag on it. Is it fine? It's still got some click to it. So let's jump back here. Let's go to this one. And this was what, number 5, and we already set 6. That one's down. So let's set 5. Let's check it first with our number 6. 6,000ths. Yeah, so we set that at 8 before. So that has a good amount too loose. That's about right there. Tiny bit. Feels good though. Let's go ahead and check. We got 2 more to go and we're done. That one's actually pretty decently tight on the 6. That's where it stops and starts to snug. Tighten this down. Okay. And then the very last one, which is set at 10. Whoop, whoop, whoop. See, it's just that easy. It's just that easy to mess it up. It's about right there. Okay, all of them are done. So all we're gonna do now is just reinstall the valve cover. All right, so I got new gasket installed. We wiped the other area off. These don't take any sealer at all. We're gonna go ahead and reinstall this bad boy back on here. Hopefully the gasket don't fall out. Little something like that. Not real complex. I'm just gonna be forward with you guys. It's not a very difficult engine. So they gave us an extra bolt. Was there another one in the middle? Did we forget something? Double check. I was sitting here looking at it the whole time and messed it up. It's possible. It's a good time to see that. Yes. Oh boy. Oh boy. We can hear the comments now. Well, I was watching until Nathan almost forgot that bolt. Unsubscribe. Almost forgot the bolt. Tell you what, damn kids these days. You gotta watch them every move. Oh, we need the smaller one. That's for the top. How come we take that apart and now that you notice that? Like, what the hell? So is there another locking pin? I don't really see any difference, to be honest with you. Another locking washer? Another locking washer? No. There's not. Okay. Who am I to judge? I guess there's nowhere for this one to lock in that way. Now, there's a possibility, since we did this after, if it was stretched, it could throw all the stuff off. We still blame Philip. He's standing right in front of us. How come you didn't put that in there? Everybody's like, he's still mean to Philip. Was that on the MRE channel? He's like, Nathan's such an asshole. He didn't even say thank you to Philip when he handed him that spoon. Okay, let's go back in with this. Everything still feels normal. I mean, I don't think it's the problem. I think it has rod knock. I'll be totally honest with you. I think it's rod knock. Will it prove us wrong? Perhaps. Jeez. The struggle's real. Okay, so next up, put the top two on. We have all new hardware for these. Good thing it fell all the way through. And let's tighten these up real quick. All right, we'll hook her up and hook the hose up. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're just taking side bets here, whether it's gonna fix it. We don't have the boost tube on, but it doesn't matter. We're just gonna start this for a second and see if it's still ticking. I particularly think it's rod knock or something else, maybe that timing belt tensioner, that bearing on it. Let's start without the boost tube. Let's just see what we're gonna get. That's not it. Let me throw that boost tube back on it. All right, so the boost tube is back on. You see, we'll give her the old starty start. We got a long screwdriver to listen to it. Yes, it's probably knocking, more than likely. Let's turn that nonsense off. Yeah, so it's got big problems. I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna end it here for right now. This will be our video for our lifter refresh on our Figaro. I guess tomorrow we're gonna pull the oil pan off and have some real fun. If we got a loose rod, we kind of need to look at the crank and see what's happened to the crank, and because we'll know how bad it is if it's turnable or not. Awesome. All right, guys, stay tuned. Part 2 coming up.